Sue Moroney.
Thank you, Mr Chair. It's a pleasure to rise and speak to the Public Safety, Public Protection Orders Bill in the committee stages. I rise to speak because I just want to seek some clarification on some of the clauses within this bill, and because of the nature of what we've heard about the reasons why we are having to put this sort of legislation in place, and I think no one in this Parliament feels happy about having to debate such issues, because these are the sorts of things that exist in our society that we would prefer simply didn't exist. But they do, and so we need to make sure that the legislation that we've got in front of us is fit for purpose and actually does what we think it does. I have been reflecting on what the Select Committee found with this bill, because in fact the Select Committee made a number of amendments to this bill, and I'm very pleased that they did. But in particular, I wanted to understand, and the Minister may be able to clarify for me, that when the Select Committee amended Clause 30, Part 1, to replace that the person who was placed under the public protection order, where they were going to have access to newspapers, that was actually amended at the Select Committee stage so that they would have access to news media. And the Select Committee has made the statement that the amendment refers to a resident receiving a news media item and does not include by reference media representatives. Now, I've had a look at that clause, and when I initially read it, it sounds to me, and this may be a drafting issue, it sounds to me like they actually are going to be given access to news media. And to me, because that's actually what it says in the clause, it says a resident must be given access to news media. And that sounds to me like they have got access to be interviewed by the news media, rather than just to read information in the news media. And I'm quite confused, because those two things are quite different from each other. Have they actually got the right to have someone come and visit them and interview them? Maybe one of the TV programs. Maybe they could become part of a reality TV show. Who knows? But I'm not sure that the drafting of that particular Clause 30, Part 1 of Clause 30, does do what the Select Committee in fact asked to happen. They wanted it to be made quite clear that they were going to be, in their words, for the sake of clarity, the amendment refers to a resident receiving a news media item and does not include by reference media representatives. But what the law actually says is 30, Part 1, a resident must be given access to news media, and then in brackets it says, for example, newspapers, television or radio, and if internet facilities are available in the residence to internet sites approved by the manager. It then goes on in Part 2 to say that it does not entitle a resident to unsupervised access to the internet or the use of email. However, it doesn't seem to me that it actually excludes what the Select Committee wanted it to exclude. So I'd be interested to hear from the Minister about how they will ensure that clause is going to be enacted in the way that the Select Committee wanted it to be. I also wanted to quickly visit the management plan, which is in Clause 39. And
Can the member just confirm that she's speaking of the Parole Extended Supervision Orders Amendment Bill?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, it took me a while to get that point, but I think the member might be speaking of the bill.
I hope that these were traversed in the previous bill, but the Minister obviously can't answer my questions, and I'll leave it at that. Sorry.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The question is that the Minister's amendments set out on SOP number 30 are agreed to. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. Contrary opinion will say no. The ayes have it. The question now is that Part 1 as amended stand part. Those who are of that opinion say aye. The contrary opinion say no. The ayes have it. There is a requirement to vote. The question now is that Part 2 stand part. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. Aye. The contrary opinion will say no. The ayes have it. The question now is that Clause 1 stand part. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. Aye. The contrary opinion will say no. The ayes have it. The question now is that Clause 2 stand part. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. Aye. Contrary opinion will say no. The ayes have it. The question now is that Clause 3 stand part. Those who are of that opinion will say aye. The contrary opinion will say no. The ayes have it. I will report this bill with amendment presently. We now come to the Education Amendment Bill number 2. When we were last